Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Shooting the Shelf for our Wednesday one-shot. And for those of you who are one of our fantastic members of the channel, you get to see this earlier in the week. So thank you for that support and hanging out with us. Curtis, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Deadpool Wolverine, new movie out right now.
Okay, and who's this down here?
This is David Williams. He's a good friend of ours that has also seen the movie and would like to talk about it. You know, this is Wednesday One Shot for anybody that hasn't seen one of these before. It's basically just us talking about something that we enjoy. So it's not ever anything that we're going to be bashing or critical of or snapping figures in half or anything like that. This is just us talking about something that we like, and this is a movie that we like. So we're going to do our best to try to keep the beginning part of this as spoiler-free as possible. So no need to worry if you haven't seen it yet. Obviously, it's always better if you have seen it, but we will put up a spoiler graphic that looks like this at some point. And at that point, from that point on, it's fair game. So just FYI.
And for the record, that was not the warning for the
No,
spoilers. That was just the preamble.
It was a preview of the warning.
So real quick, I saw it Thursday night on the RCX screen down here in New York. So really big, really cool, like the not vibrating seats, but like it feels like it's coming through the seats and stuff.
Yeah, the surround sound. Yep.
Yeah. Curtis, you saw it yesterday.
I did see it yesterday. And it was one of those where I saw it and immediately wanted to go back and watch like the next showing, but I had plans with the family to eat a meal afterwards, so we had to like come home and eat. So I was kind of disappointed. I was like, as we're eating, I'm like looking around the room like, man, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd be able to watch this again. So
And David, when did you get to see it?
I saw it Thursday night, just at the the preview showing or whatever, but our theater had it on like 10 screens, so I actually didn't have anyone sitting next to me, and the whole audience was pretty quiet the whole time. So that was a little disappointing because I was excited the whole movie.
Gotcha.
So one of these days I'll see a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie with a full theater of people that cheer.
Yeah, ours. I mean, we used to go to the movie theater all the time. Like, I mean, probably 2-3 times a month. And now it's more like maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and it's usually pretty empty. This one was packed. Like we were there Saturday morning, 11 a.m. and it wasn't a full house, but it was pretty packed. So it was the most packed I've seen a movie since COVID. So
oh wow,
yeah.
For those that pre-warning, pre-spoiler, just a quick setup for the movie. This is the first transition of Fox movies into the official MCU storylines now. I mean, I guess there was some stuff with that's Sony with the Spider-Man in No Way Home. But now we're getting the Fox side of stuff. So Deadpool is, and for people worried about Deadpool coming into the Disney franchise and being like watered down, I will say they pulled no punches in this movie.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we didn't get was like gratuitous nudity.
But it was just to kind of elaborate on that point, like I was kind of worried about like what kind of, because the first 2 Deadpool movies, I mean, there's some jokes and things that are out there that you're like, man, I don't know if Disney would put up with this. It was like that throughout this movie. There was between the violence and some of the things that were said, it's like, man, I'm surprised that Disney let that slide.
A lot of it
was very much a Deadpool movie. It did not feel like Disney's version of Deadpool. This was just a Deadpool movie.
Yeah, I will say there were a couple, again, no spoilers. There were a couple lines and a couple jokes that I was surprised were in a movie at all. Let alone one that Disney was like, yeah, we're going to put this out and slap our name on it. But real quick, the basic premise is, if you've not seen the trailers, is they're tying Deadpool into the TVA. There's a Wolverine that has failed his reality, and Deadpool needs to go into that reality. So it's reality, multiverse jumping, and I will, and they've got to team up to save a world, and Wolverine doesn't want to have anything to do with Deadpool, and it's kind of that will they, won't they get along to complete the mission kind of a thing, like the anti-buddy cop. It's Tango and Cash of Marvel.
Yeah.
Does that work, Curtis?
Yeah. It kind of felt to me like a little bit like Thor Ragnarok, like kind of the whole Thor and Hulk, kind of the whole Banner and Thor vibe kind of thing. That's how it felt like to me, and that's my favorite. Well, up until this, it was my favorite Marvel movie. So yeah, I mean, it had a good vibe throughout the whole thing, and I'll say, like, I enjoyed myself the whole time, whether it was laughing or just there were some dramatic parts. There was a lot of action, some amazing fight scenes. There was not a part of this movie where I was like, okay, this is kind of a little bit of a lull, and they're stretching out the movie length or whatever. It was like, I mean, the runtime is barely over 2 hours. But that whole time, it's just like one thing after another, like boom, 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 boom. And you're on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Yeah. And similar to, like, in my opinion, the other two Deadpool movies, this one had just as much heart, like, I think that Deadpool gets a bad rep just for being R-rated and crude. But Deadpool 1, 2, and now 3 are just some of the most charming, heartwarming comic book stories out there. And
Totally
and
agree.
they, on top of all the crazy stuff that they do throughout this movie, it's a super sweet one that feels good when you're done with it,
Yeah. And I thought, we're still in the kind of spoiler-free range, but I will say the way that they handled the whole conversion from Fox to Disney, because they address it in the movie several times about the Fox universe, I felt like they did it in a very respectful manner. Like, it throughout, all the way even through like the end credits, I think that they just did a really good job of acknowledging, hey, this is the stuff that was done by Fox, and they did some great stuff that led to what we have today. And they acknowledged that as they went, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it was handled with so much care. Like, you could tell.
Yeah.
Nobody,
I mean, there's
on
jokes.
either
They
side,
made jokes, but
yeah.
it was,
But nobody on either side, Fox or Disney, left that movie with their feelings hurt,
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like me and Curtis doing a show together. Like, we might antagonize each other back and forth one way or the other, but we know we got each other's back at the end of the day, and we're going to be there for each other. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I think it's, well, real quick, I'll say I don't think a single performance disappointed. I think the directing, the action, the pacing, the cinematography, like all the technical stuff you would want in a Deadpool. It felt like a Deadpool movie. It felt like a MCU movie. Like it ticked all the boxes. And like David said, it had the heart, and, to pull off heart in a movie that's so, violent and
over the
language
top,
filled, like that's quality writing and performance and directing from everyone involved. So, kudos
Absolutely.
to all that. And the score was great, and the soundtrack that
Oh man, some of the songs were
God.
perfect. Like, if they would have listed like the songs from the soundtrack before the movie and I saw it, I would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, it doesn't like they don't, it's not like they're all in the same category and they're all got the same kind of music. It's all over the board. But when it hits and it's during that scene, it's like, this is the perfect song for this moment of the movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great. So,
and I think with that, Curtis, we're now going to enter spoiler time. All right, David, you are the guest.
If you made it to this point in the video, just keep in mind we're going to start talking spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the movie, this would be the good time to turn it off. And
I will say, for the most part, we might try to avoid like the actual story, like the major like plot points. final things, but like we're gonna drop some cameos, some jokes, talk about that stuff, but like we're not gonna give away the whole farm. But Curtis, I say we defer to David. Why don't you throw one or two of your favorite moments, or something you want to say that can include spoilers.
Mine were the variants, that list of variants, and I won't get super specific because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It blew my mind. I've been a Wolverine fan since the early 80s, and I have some of those comic books still, like the Big X. I have that, and I've had that since I was 6 years old or something like that. And then it was Laura. Laura was the biggest thing for me that I was like,
it was good.
It was like my eyes got all watery and I choked up, and I was like, oh man, I'm by myself in the movie theater about to cry.
When she put on those glasses, I was like, fuck
yes.
Yes. Like shit is about to go down.
Yeah, she that was I was convinced that was not going to be in this movie. Like for some reason I read it on Twitter or something that they were like, that girl is not doing the movie. She's not going to be in Deadpool. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of disappointing. But she's a much older lady now, or a woman.
She did an interview where she said she wasn't in it, and she did a lot better than some actors that kind of just spill the beans. So man. Yeah, for me, and I will throw some out there because I can't without spoiling it. But when Blade walks out, dude, I was like, fucking game over. Like I was over the fucking moon with Wesley Snipes walking in as Blade, and then followed right immediately by you see the card and it's Gambit. Jeez, and I'm like, dude. And we've been teased with a Channing Tatum Gambit movie for like 10, 12 years, and it's just never happened. So to see that, and it wasn't just like he's on a screen for a second, then he's done. Like he had a pretty big role in this movie.
And you know what? Not to interrupt, but he looked strange. Like it was a really odd look, and I was like, maybe this doesn't work. But the way he played that character by the end of his like sequence, I was like, I would watch a whole movie of that.
It did look the way that they cut his outfit, like it seemed like he was really big up top, and then like the way that he's built and looks in that jacket did look a little bit off. But I loved his accent. I loved his lines. I loved the fighting style and everything they did with the CGI and the cards and explode. It was amazing. And then I'm a huge Blade Trinity fan. Like out of all the Blade movies, that's my favorite Blade movie. And I love Hannibal King. Like to me, that was like Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool before he got to play Deadpool. Like the whole attitude, the way he does in that movie. But notoriously, him and Wesley Snipes did not get along on that set. Like it was like really bad. Like apparently Wesley Snipes is a big method actor, so like there was a lot of things that he just stayed in character and was kind of a jerk, and like they almost had it out on that set. So when he says like I don't like you, and then Deadpool goes, you never have. Like I'm like this is the best movie of all time. But and then the other thing would just be just the different fight scenes. Like it wasn't one good fight scene. It wasn't two. It was several different fight scenes. The one in the van blew my mind. Like I think back to like
the Honda Odyssey.
Yeah, the fucking. I think back to like the Daredevil TV show and like the hallway scene, and you've got some of these like epic fights that you're like, oh, I mean, these are amazing. That fight in the Odyssey was unbelievable. It was so good. So
the choreography, the violence in it, and the aggression in it, like it really felt then the like
end
that.
With all the seatbelts wrapped around.
Yeah. I loved how angry they made this Wolverine. Like he was. Oh yeah. He was a monster.
Well, the fact that they both have regenerative healing factors means that you can do whatever the hell you want. Like they can be as brutal and violent as they want, and there's never a point where you're like, I'm really worried for them, So
I will say, I don't know. It's the way the movie starts off that cemented this movie for me. Because I'm going to say, I totally agree with what you said about the Fox stuff, Curtis. So give me a second to set this up. We're going to run this one a little bit longer. The most of you know how I feel about the X-Men cartoon, the original cartoon, and the Fox movies. If you've watched the channel at all, they're not my cup of tea. I can acknowledge that I respect the groundwork they laid for, the cartoon in the 90s, how that became such a pop culture touchstone for people to be introduced to the X-Men, and for the movies to do what they did, paved the way for, between them, Spider-Man and Blade, they paved the way for the Marvel universe we have today. Like I do not deny that, but I don't enjoy those movies. Like they don't have a lot of nostalgia for me anymore. But that opening scene where, they're kind of acknowledging, like, bringing Logan back, and we're not gonna desecrate Logan. That was a beautiful movie. And then he's like, of course we are, and he's like digging up the grave immediately. I was like, yes, like that's a great movie. Like I think Logan is the best made X-Men movie that they've done. But
absolutely,
but just the way they do that, and how they're like, nothing is sacred. Like, and they talk about protecting
it did set the stage. This is what the rest of the movie is going to be like.
It's like, it's like, just like, all right, it's kind of that thing. It's like, well, you can make fun of everybody else's religion except for mine. It's like, no, we can make fun of everything. And and I was like, good. Like that just set the tone. Like you guys said, the violent, some of this stuff was so brutal and over the top. But some of it, that opening scene almost felt like something out of Kill Bill. Like it was just so ridiculous.
It was so over the top. Like I was worried for a minute that the movie was going to be too ridiculous because of that opening sequence with like the music and the dancing, and I was like, oh man, I hope it's not this stupid the whole time. You know? Because it was fun, but I was like, I don't think I could watch this for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an incredible way to start a movie, though. That's for sure.
I gotta say, I was really excited for Gambit, Curtis, for you, because I was like, oh man, I can't wait for Curtis to see this.
Here's the funny thing. So Friday night, right before OffWorld, I put on this new Gambit shirt that I got, right? And I just wore it for OffWorld just to kind of, get under Jesse's skin, because he's not the biggest Gambit fan. But then, like, we get up to go to the movie on Saturday, and I'm like, I'm going to wear that Gambit shirt again, because I only wore it for a couple hours last night. It didn't really, like, get dirty or whatever. So I'm going to wear it, not knowing what was going on in the movie. So then, like, the fact that happens and I'm wearing my Gambit shirt, I was like, yes, this is awesome. Even my kids afterwards, they're like, did you know? I'm like, no, I didn't know.
I guess one of the other big moments for me was, like you said, was seeing Elektra come back. Because like the Daredevil movie and the Elektra movie are not great in the scale of things, but again, they were in that earlier era, and they did some things that, like, I think helped pave the way for more things. But like, I didn't know how happy I would be to see Jennifer Garner back as Elektra, like, and just getting to play a more MCU serious take, even though it's supposed to be, I think, her version from the movie she was in.
Yeah, just a more well-written version of her.
Good.
Yeah.
And she looked fantastic, and they were all of those cameos were taken so seriously that it was like, even if you thought Blade was dumb, or if you thought, Daredevil was horrible, you can't take away the fact that these characters, they're iconic. When Jennifer Garner walked out, I was like, if that's the only cameo we get, I mean, I'll believe it. That's a cool character now.
Yeah. This movie did for me what the Clone Wars animated series did for the prequels to the Fox universe.
100%.
Kind of bring it all together. Yep.
It's not Star Wars until it's Star Wars,
Yeah.
Like, you can hate the prequels, watch Clone Wars, and then all of a sudden you have this affinity towards clones and those ships and the style of fighting and everything. So it's like, this legitimized the 20th Century Fox universe so properly, with like with so much respect. It was really cool.
Well, and
Yeah.
I don't want to go into detail. I understand we're in the spoiler section. I don't want to go into detail about what happened, but I do want to mention that Chris Evans was fantastic. I don't want to go
Oh,
any more detail
absolutely.
than that, other than
Okay.
Chris Evans was just so freaking good.
He's so good.
Oh my God, he played the role that they asked him to play perfectly.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and then
I would feel.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
No, you go first.
Have at it. No, because I'm going to a different subject. So go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, I had to look up her name, Emma Corrin, who plays Cassandra Nova, which I don't feel is a spoiler, even though we're in the spoiler section. Like I think it was fairly clear from the trailers that I'm pretty sure they even mentioned her in one of the trailers, but I hated that character in the comics. She's well, I don't need to get into all that. But when I saw the trailer, the first trailer, and they showed her, I'm like, oh, this character or this actress looks like she's having fun with this character. I'm kind of intrigued to see what they're gonna. There's that whole thing where she just the hands up, like the little like conducting move.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, like there's sometimes when people do like certain things with their motions and their physicality that like, okay, I'm interested. And that little hand flick in the trailer, I was like, oh, okay, who is she? And the stuff she does where she's like putting her hands in people's faces. I
gotta
can't
tell you,
describe how icky that makes me feel, but how cool it was at the same time.
Yeah, it
there
was
was so
animated
much
so
violence
well.
in this movie, and like just gore and different things. But that is the thing that creeped me out the most, was the whole fingers and that. Like I was just like, oh my! When she has the one guy and she's like dragging him along down to the subway, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, the effects department really. I mean, they spent a lot of Disney's money to make that not look stupid.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because it looked fantastic. It looked uncomfortable. Like it was. Yeah. So bizarre.
And I once again, I don't want to go into super detail on this, but I will say that the what they played while the credits were rolling, I definitely teared up. So
broke
I
my
will
heart.
100% admit that I was a blubbering mess during those credits. So,
are you talking about the song or the visuals or both?
The visual during the credits.
Okay. Yeah, both.
Yeah,
it was super. It was super fun to watch. Like it just made me. It reminded me of how long I've been paying attention to this universe, and I was, I felt like I was a kid when that came out. The original.
It just felt like respectful. It felt like Disney saying, we're not going to just shit all over everything that was done by Fox. We're going to pay tribute to this. We're going to acknowledge the contributions that they made in a very respectful way. And dude, it was, I was very overwhelmed with the emotion at that moment. So
it was it was almost like a father walking he's the overprotective father walking his daughter down the aisle and giving her away. Like it was treated like, thanks for everything, but we'll take care of this now.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that was great. And again, the main reason I wanted to see this was because that initial teaser they put out where like Ryan Reynolds is like sitting on his couch talking and Hugh Jackman walks through the background and he's like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, I'm like, okay, their personalities on camera, because the two of them interacting in the Wolverine Origins is the best part of that movie.
Well, they're good friends in real life, and you can tell that relationship that they have just shows up on screen.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend anyone go watch any of like the Vanity Fair. They do like the lie detector test interview where they like any of those things that you can find. Like you just see the friendship and the love that these two guys have for each other. And
the one where they're supposed to be doing a commercial for the other one's brand. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That is so funny. The one other thing that I wanted to make mention of too, that there's several times throughout this where Deadpool tells Wolverine, the Hugh Jackman, basically that he's going to have to play that role till he's 90.
Yeah.
After seeing this movie, like I was kind of like, oh man, how long are they going to keep trotting this guy out there? after seeing this movie, I hope that we get to see him as Wolverine for many, many more movies because it was so fucking good. And the relationship between the two of them, the rapport on the screen was so good that I hope that they make him play that role till he's 90. I don't care.
Well, and like, I don't know. I mean, I don't pay attention to a lot of the media aspect of movies and stuff, and I feel like Hugh Jackman likes the Wolverine character, and he likes playing it or enjoys it, and the way that he played this particular Wolverine felt like a huge payoff for him, because like there were certainly some shortcomings in the original X-Men stuff. The Days of the Future Past one was like, he's kind of cool. The Wolverine Origins was a disaster. Up until Logan, where it's like, okay, we finally got the best representation of Wolverine that we could have gotten. And then for this one to include the suit and the mask and the violence and just like,
and
he wasn't.
Humor and
he wasn't.
It felt like he was having fun, for sure.
Absolutely. So I could see him agreeing to another one and being like, as long as I get to play the Wolverine that I've created over the years, because I mean, that's just it. I couldn't imagine anybody else playing Wolverine,
Well, and even just him playing the different versions, like as they were kind of going back and forth and trying to find one, like he did a great job with each one too. Like, and they were totally different. So
all but one,
when he hopped off the bar stool, I fucking lost it.
Dude,
I died, man.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Oh man. I got one more. I won't spoil the whole moment, but I feel like this movie also gave us like the best usage of the fourth wall breaking in any of the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've enjoyed it in the other Deadpool movies. I liked it in She-Hulk, but it felt like all that stuff kind of like set off and it paid off. It had a moment pretty close to what I was hoping when they first talked about Deadpool was going to come into the MCU for real, is that someday seeing him in Avengers movie and he's like talking to the audience, like in the background. So he's having his fourth wall break, but we're not privy to it. And like, Hawkeye and like someone else are just like, what is wrong with this guy? And there's a moment very similar to that, different, but similar enough for me that I got excited. I laughed so hard when he was in the TVA with Paradox, and it made my night. Like that joke, I don't know why, it just hit me in just the right way. But yeah, this so much fun. Go see it. Do not take your small children that won't be quiet.
Go see it multiple times too, man, because listen, I know Marvel has not put out the best stuff over the last 2-3 years, but this thing is phenomenal, and I say support it as much as you can. Go out there, watch it. When it comes out, buy it on digital, buy it on DVD, buy it on Blu-ray, whatever you need. But yeah, support this thing. Let them know we want more of this. So.
Yeah, show them with your support that this is what we want from a comic book movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They can wear costumes, they can be violent, they can be sweet, they can be funny, but they don't have to just be one thing. Carbon copies.
In the I know there's more stuff, and Marvel has been iffy in the last couple of movies or since Endgame. And they addressed that, and I can't remember if we mentioned that. They addressed that in such fun ways in this movie. So the fact that
when he says you're joining at a low point, that was so good.
The fact that they know and are able to make fun of that makes me feel like they're going to get some handles back on this, and I don't mind some experimental stuff and they're trying some new things, but the last couple of years it's just been too much. But in the words of John Wick, for Marvel, I'm going to say, I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I'll eat those words if I have to, if the next thing comes out totally bombs. But it feels like movies are Now, there's been a lot of great movies since COVID, but this movie was so much fun, such a fun experience. Like Curtis had saw it with family. David, you went out and saw it, and you wish there had been more of a crowd. My theater was pretty well balanced for what it was, and it was just a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I would recommend it 10 out of 10 to anybody that asks.
Yeah. Same. Well, folks, I know this is running a little bit longer than our normal Wednesday one shots, but it's just that good, and we had a lot to talk about. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. And like we said, just go and support this thing because, we need to let them know this is what we want. So.
Absolutely. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for keeping me around, man.
Yeah. And until next time, we still don't have a closing for this show.
Yeah. So shoot your shot.
See you later.
Yeah.